Ahoy there, me hearties! This be Captain Silverhook, and you're listening to the Two Old Pirates podcast. Set sail for an open sea of stories, tales, and some really crazy stuff. I expect you to like and subscribe, lest you be walking the plank. Ha ha ha!
Hello and welcome to the Two Old Pirates episode 91. I'm Eric, and I hope that you'll enjoy this episode over the oldest cold case in Nueces County. That is like Corpus Christi and the surrounding areas. I know there's different counties, but like this is the one. This is a tale of Caroline Hart, a 14-year-old girl in the summer of 1969 who was murdered. And as of today, we're about to fall into 2024. It's been 54 years, and there's not been a crack in the case yet. So we're going to go ahead and provide you with all the facts that we know of so far to this true crime event that is yet to be solved here in South Texas. First off, it was the summer of 1969. It was July 24th, the wee hours of July 24th, 1969. You might sit there and say, what's going on back in 1969? 4 days previous to that, we had landed on the moon. President Nixon was the president. We had amped things up in Vietnam. The Zodiac Killer had just taken another life the month before. The number one song that weekend of the end of summer of July was In the Year 2525 by Zager and Evans. And the number one movie at the movie theaters was The April Fools, starring, I believe, Jack Lemmon. But this story deals with two 14-year-old girls. One is Caroline Hart, and the other one is Mae Duncan. They're both 14-year-old girls. They're both friends. Caroline Hart came from a different background than most people. Her father and grandfather were the owners of the Hart Hanks newspaper conglomerate here in Texas. They owned about 17 newspapers. They owned the Corpus Christi Caller-Times, the San Antonio Express, and many, many more. So this is a very, very wealthy family. And in the summer of 1969, in July, she was invited by her friend Mae Duncan to come stay with Mae and her parents at their summer beach house in the small resort town of Port Aransas, Texas. Now, for those of you that are watching this that know about Port Aransas, you understand that it's very, very, business-like, and there's a lot of people that venture over there to go ahead and stay, the weekend, or they go, offshore fishing and stuff. It's definitely a place that people like to attend. But back in the 60s, it was, even though it's on an island and there's still ferries that get you there and stuff, it was a pretty small town. It's still small, but we're talking about maybe 13 to 1,400 people at the most. And therefore, she said yes. So she goes ahead and she goes to stay with Mae and her parents. The girls are on the first floor of a 2-story house that is the summer house, the beach house. And they're relaxing in their individual beds on the first floor in the bedroom. Mae's bed happens to be closer to the door that leads back out into the house, and Caroline's is further up against the wall. So the girls are reading a book to help them go to sleep. Early that morning, Mae awakens hearing Caroline scream. She thinks Caroline is having a nightmare, and so she says, "Caroline, shush, I'm trying to sleep," and just kind of rolls back over. Then she thinks that she hears some moaning, and she gets up to start walking towards Caroline and her bed, and she just thinks there's something wrong. So she runs out of the door, and she starts to get to the stairs to get up to her parents' room. From the facts, as she gets to the stairs, she sees her mom coming down. And her mom says, "Your dad is already down on the first floor. He heard what sounded like a door slam, like a screen door slam." So they eventually do go in, and what they find is, when they turn on the light, that Caroline is moaning and in pain and has been injured in some way. They then all got dressed, and remember, being such a small town, there was no hospital or place to go ahead and take Caroline. So they took her to a local hospital. I believe it might have been in the Aransas Pass area, which would mean that they would have to go back across the ferry to Aransas Pass. So, of course, Caroline, passed away from the injury that she had sustained. The doctor and the forensic pathologist both said that no autopsy had to be done because there was a single wound. Now, what the wound looked like was, they said, a snubbed, like this, the back of a screwdriver, like that, about that size, about a half an inch, that had been rammed through her third and fourth rib, mind you. Rammed through, not pierced through like a knife. A knife was not used. They said it was a flat, solid object, like rebar, or a very, very thick Phillips screwdriver, something, but it was thick and dull. It wasn't pointy. And it was shoved through the third and fourth rib, and it went straight through into the heart, and it pierced her heart, and that's what she died from. Now, this is the account that supposedly happened 54 years ago that they cannot solve. Someone walked into the house and went straight to the bedroom on the first floor where the girls were sleeping. This intruder walked past May's bed, who was right there as soon as you open up the door. She's right there. Walked past her. Walked to the other side in darkness, no lights on. And using that blunt half-inch object, pierced through her, stabbing her into the heart one time. And the doctor said it had to have been a very, very strong person to be able to pierce through the flesh, the cartilage, through the ribs, into the heart. Then this person evidently withdrew the weapon, turned, walked out of the bedroom, walked out of the house, and left no fingerprints. The murder weapon was missing, no footprints. May didn't say whether she ever even saw anybody. She heard the scream. That's when it must have happened. But she just said, oh, go to sleep. So she didn't even have the presence of somebody being in the room, she said. The door opened. Didn't hear any of this. So nobody even knows if it's male or female, tall, short, fat, thin, nothing. It's just like a phantom came and did this. So the police were called. They came out there. Like I said, they dusted for fingerprints. They took eyewitness accounts. What did you hear? What did you see? Different things like that. They went around asking people in the Port Aransas area. They asked dock workers, gas station attendants, students, paper boys, surfers, beach goers, bird watchers, and they couldn't get any information on who, what, why, when, or how, other than there's a dead girl, 14-year-old dead girl. Even more were questioned in surrounding towns, in Rockport, Aransas Pass, Ingleside. They talked to people from Florida and Michigan. I mean, they did all they really could with what they had. Every avenue and person that they could, they checked out. May was changed forever. She ended up getting married, and she was married to a man for 21 years. And during those 21 years, he said there was bouts of depression that she suffered. There were up and downs. And she always felt like the parents of Caroline felt that she might have been involved somehow. Now, the parents of Caroline had always said, that they never once thought May was involved with it. But that never stopped May from feeling that way. So May's husband didn't let her really be around sharp knives. He wouldn't let them own a gun as a weapon. May dealt with this her whole life. And in 2006, without her husband's knowledge, she got a gun. And he came home one day, and she was in the backyard in the orchard, and she had taken her life. So another person from this tragedy was gone. Now, the night that it happened, the actual words that May had told the police that night was that she heard the scream. She told her to be quiet, that she was trying to sleep. She heard some moaning. It scared her. She got up, left, And she went upstairs. When she went upstairs, she saw her mom coming down. And then she said, I think there's something wrong with Caroline. And that the mom and dad then came down the stairs. And they told May, go upstairs and we'll be back. Evidently, they went downstairs and checked on Caroline. They came back and told her she's gone. She's passed away. She has a wound to her stomach area. They then got dressed and then drove to the hospital. So there's two kind of stories there from that night. One was that the dad was already on the first floor because he thought that he heard a banging door. And the second one was him and the mother were coming downstairs and told May to go upstairs, and they found Caroline already dead. So those are two distinct different stories. So they have about a 6-inch file of information from all the people that they interviewed, the pictures that they took, everything that they mapped out about the house. And that was started July 24th, 1969. From what I've read about this, the last time there was a new entry in there was June of 1970, which means for 11 months they really worked this case really hard, and after the 11th month there was just like, we got nothing. We don't know how this happened. So that means that that file has been sitting there with no new entries of other possible leads for 53 years out of the 54 years since this occurred. I'm hoping somebody, maybe nobody, but I'm hoping somebody will know something about this, and they'll contact the Port Aransas Police Department or any local police department if they know about this, if they've ever heard a rumor about what happened that night in July of 1969 to that poor young girl. I can't imagine the pain and suffering she had to have gone through, the fear in the middle of the night. And who is the sick bastard that did something like this? You know, was it just a wandering person who just happened to pick the house and walk past the young girl May and walk in there to where Caroline was across the way and just stab her through the chest and then walk back out? Was there something more nefarious that went on? I don't know. But the thing is, it's been 54 years, and I think this young lady, she deserves a proper resting at peace and having this case solved. And yet, we've never really heard about this story. I've lived here my whole life. I've never heard of this story. It's been 54 years. Don't you think somebody should do something about this and fix this? No fingerprints. No footprints. No murder weapon. No sexual assault. Just a stab through the ribs, into the heart, dead. Something fishy's there. I'll tell you that. So, in conclusion, Caroline Hart deserves justice. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of the Two Old Pirates in our True Crime series. This is the oldest crime in Nueces County. I think it'd be awesome if we could solve it. For the Two Old Pirates, this is Eric. I hope that you enjoy this episode. Call the number that's right here for the Port Aransas Police if you have any information. Peace.